Serious voices.
All right, gentlemen, here we are back with another edition of We Like Movies. I am Juan here with Marc and Kevin. And today we're talking about Nightmare Alley is the movie that we just saw. I know how I feel about it, and I'm excited to jump into it. I'm not going to say that I expect that we agree, because at this point I expect that we will not agree.
I expect nothing.
Yeah, that's probably best. Have no expectations. But yeah, I guess I'll just start with a quick recap. This is a movie by Guillermo del Toro, who and starring Bradley Cooper, with quite the ensemble as a cast, a heck of a cast in this movie. But it's basically the story of Stan. That was his name. I don't remember his last name. I read it somewhere here recently. But anyway, Stan, who is a guy who is basically a carny in every sense of the word. He stumbles, into a circus and then ends up getting a job there. He being a carny, that he has some past that he's probably wanting to escape from or avoid. He ends up learning from a magician or a mentalist act and kind of learns the tricks of the trade. Then he meets a little lady, Molly, who he recruits to join him. And then they move on from the circus together to perform their mentalist act for richer, wealthier, higher class of people to basically take their money from them. And but then things kind of spin out of control, and perhaps Stan's greed and and recklessness catches up with him in the worst ways. So that is a recap of Nightmare Alley. This was my choice. I wanted to take it in a different direction than we had been with the last few movies, so this is definitely that. Although it's probably somewhat along the lines of Last Night in Soho. But yeah, I'd say, I liked it. Again, for me, we'll get into so much more detail, but I'll just say right off the bat, 2 hours and 30 minutes. I don't understand why all of these movies now these days have to be so long. This movie didn't need to be that long. It definitely, and I think also this movie is a lot simpler than it pretends to be. I think there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of things that they try to throw at you, and there's some good questions there, but I think at the heart of it, it's a pretty simple story, like I said, about greed and other vices, which catch up to Stan. But yeah, I'd say I liked it. I mean, overall, Guillermo del Toro, great director. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, not great, but good. I didn't. It wasn't terrible anyway. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Kevin.
All right, so I'm gonna just say this is a 180 from the last movie we watched.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I do agree it was a simple story, but to me it was almost a masterclass in how to tell a story. The first half seemed like it was its own little story, could be its own little episode. The second half was its own little episode, but it called back to the first half. And again, it wasn't a perfect movie not by far, but storytelling wise, things built up, things were set up, things were paid off. And how I believe in the other movie that we reviewed, Stillwater, where none of those stories were interesting. I thought both of these stories had some interesting merit to it, and it created one big story. I thought it was ridiculously beautiful. Like watching it, I was like, wow, I would love to get the art of this movie, like the book, the art of. I'm like, I thought it was great. You know what I mean? Again, it wasn't the deepest ones. The second half, I thought the suspense built up. I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm like, oh, that guy's going to kill that guy. Things were going. He got his comeuppance for his hubris in the second half. And again, there's some stuff that kind of went a little bit Twilight Zone-y on some parts, and you can see coming. And there's other things I want to talk about where I'm like, ooh, this kind of went through my head. But again, I personally love them. It was 2.5 hours, and when I watched it, it was early in the morning. I was like, oh, they keep getting longer. But it actually, to me, it just flew by. I was like, okay. I'm like, cool. And that's what my opinion was. Is I thought it was like simple, basic, but just great storytelling. They just told a story.
Yeah, that was kind of my feeling as well. The story was, I wouldn't say it was generic. I thought it was a good story, but I mean, you kind of saw what was going to happen. There was no surprises on what was going to happen, maybe on how it happened. But I enjoyed it from the moment it started. I think I was just happy to see Bradley Cooper and not a raccoon. So I might have just been pulled in there, and then the cast is really good. So I think when you see Guillermo del Toro, you're just going to automatically assume it's going to be nice to watch. Even if you hate the movie, you'll admit that it was pretty to watch. And yeah, I agree. It was. I mean, the set pieces, everything was just. It was very nice to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely reiterate what you said about Bradley Cooper. And to me, I mean, this movie was, I would have to go back and watch it, but I feel like it felt like he was in every single shot. Like there was not a shot in this movie where Cooper was not in it. And I'm okay with that because I think he's an awesome actor. I do want to correct myself. The character's name was Stanton, not Stan Lee. Stan.
You said Stan, I think.
Yeah.
Stan.
That's why I let that slide.
But yeah, I really, it kind of felt like this was, if I can be a little bit crude, but almost like, a passionate love affair between Guillermo del Toro and Bradley Cooper, where, Bradley Cooper was bringing out, it gave so much in this performance to Guillermo del Toro's directing, and vice versa. Guillermo del Toro's directing was, I had read a little bit about Bradley Cooper. He was like ready to give up acting and was really disillusioned with maybe the roles he was getting, or I don't remember what exactly. So this was kind of like him coming back, and I mean, what a performance! I don't know. I also, in the article that I read about him, it said about him doing full frontal nudity, and I was like, oh my goodness, when is this going to happen? I'm not ready for this. And it was just
that doesn't sound like a Nightmare Alley.
It just showed, his little thing dangling on the water in that tub or submerged underneath.
Weird.
I'm like, that was it was not even necessary. I mean, why?
Wait, were you disappointed?
I was just.
That's all they showed.
The water made it look small. Okay.
It was cold. It was cold water.
No, I mean, like, there was no point to have had him do that. Like,
I thought that was interesting too. I went, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Yes, that was his penis, but sure.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but I quickly caught on. Like the first 15 minutes of the movie, he doesn't say a word.
Mm-hmm.
And I really was like, tell me this dude goes this whole movie without saying anything. And like, he's just a main character of a video game and people are just talking to him. But I noticed that. And I'm like, yo, he's not talking. And then finally he said something. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. It's not going to be one of those movies. No, it didn't feel that long. And I do like the subtle hints as to what was going to happen. Again, you could see it coming, but I don't, when I'm watching a movie, I go brain dead and I just watch. Like, I don't analyze, I don't try to figure things out. Like Kristen will kind of nudge me and go, oh, this is going to happen. I'm like, oh, I guess that makes sense. And it could be something so obvious, but I don't think that way. I'm just watching. And so during this movie, like I'm watching and I noticed things happening going, oh, okay, I see where that's going. I didn't have to really think. You just knew it was going to happen and it happened in a way I wasn't expecting. So even though the story wasn't, this crazy call home, about story. It was enjoyable to sit there and watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do want to mention a couple things that it is adapted from a novel and also a remake, which Kevin pointed out earlier before, in a previous conversation. But something that I find amazing, and I have heard of this guy before, but this is the first movie that I've ever seen him in. The Bradley Cooper of the 1940s version, the star of the movie, is a white man by the name of Tyrone Power.
All right.
Okay.
How about them apples?
That's a pretty good. That's a strong name.
Yes, it is. And I do have a couple questions to throw at you guys. Which is like, what do you think that the symbolism of that baby was? Enoch, who was the guy that ran the circus, kept all these fetuses of animals and babies in pickled in jars. But there was that one in particular which was that baby, and and a few other interesting things that I want to throw at you guys. But back to what Mark was saying about the first 15 minutes of the movie, and even what Kevin was saying about the brilliance of Guillermo del Toro. That you're in the hands of an amazing director when you get an opening shot like you got in this movie, where the dead body being dragged across an old wooden floor, and that's the first thing you see, and you're just like, all right, I'm in for the ride, baby.
First thing you see and hear, you just hear that scraping across the floor. Yeah, that was an interesting start.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the description said it was like film noir, and it reminded me of like old black and white like Sam Spade movies and everything, where they, like what Mark said, they don't talk a lot in the beginning, and they barely talk, and things are just happening around them. Yeah. And again, I thought that, like, even again, I was going to point out, like the whole body being dragged across the floor, you're like, oh man, I can't wait to find out what happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. One thing I guess I didn't like was, again, Stan's relationship with there were things about the character that I think, to me, they were a little ambiguous, or they didn't make sense. Like, he was really enthralled with her, which, she's an attractive girl played by Rooney Mara, but I mean, had no personality, and they had hardly spoken, at any point. So it just made me curious if because at the beginning of the movie, even though it's obvious that he's either probably been involved in something unpleasant, something, perhaps horrific, but he still seems kind of innocent. And so I guess maybe one of the genius things of this movie is that the whole time I'm wondering, is this all an act? Like, is he really smarter than he's showing? And I guess towards the middle and towards the end, it seems to be that way. But I guess my question is, like, how early on was he trying to, like, play the game, or at what point did he switch on? Or was the whole thing kind of an elaborate plan sort of by him from the beginning? Does that make sense? I guess his motives and his intentions were and even his character at times was unclear, and so that kind of kept you guessing as well.
It was interesting because I couldn't tell if he was a good person or a bad person, because I mean, you see him grifting, but then you also see him wanting to make sure that the geek is dropped off at the hospital and not left alone.
Mm-hmm.
So he does things that are, I guess, you kind of look at it going, oh, this is the absolute right thing to do, and he'll do it. But if there's a chance for him not to do it, he'll more than likely not do it.
Yeah.
And it seemed like he was a user, like, and I think that's why he was able to jump on to the next girl, because he got what he needed from her. Because you saw it as soon as they got out of the circus. The next scene, they're doing their show, and he like scolds her, you messed up. So they make it very clear that, hey, this guy is not only is he not a good guy, but now, well, he's not a good, I guess, boyfriend or whatever they were.
Yeah.
So he's not that, but also, he could be nice, because I don't know. It was interesting how they had his character going, but I do feel that the arc that he had, I mean, he got the right retribution. What happened to him was needed to happen. I was very happy about what happened to him in the end.
Yeah,
Like,
and sorry, go ahead.
no, like I did what you were saying. Like I did feel he had a subtle narcissism to him, even when he was learning things. When the guy's like, "Oh, you don't want to learn what's in that book," but he didn't care about what happened to other people as long as he got to do what he wanted to.
Yeah.
And even building up to the comeuppance, it was like they were like, "Oh, don't do this. You don't want to go there." He's like, "There's problems when you start believing your own hype. You know what I mean? When you start believing your own quote unquote powers." And he
Right.
did, and it just kept feeding him, and he couldn't stop it.
And
And then
to go off the book, like you said, when he was done with Xena, he was standing there with the book in hand going, "Here, you can have it back." And she goes, "No, you earned it." So like it kind of shows you that he's kind of a user and abuser.
Yeah, and even like his nickname for Molly was Rabbit.
That
which
was so random.
was also a that she's his little trick he's pulling out of the hat. He's just using her. So yeah, definitely. And I mean, we're all on the same page that he definitely killed Pete, right? He slipped him that poison, the poison bottle.
Oh,
I don't
did we know
know,
that?
man.
I didn't catch it. I thought he killed him by giving him the alcohol, and it just
No, because remember he it was I guess
two different kinds.
it was subtle, yeah, but it went to great lengths to explain, hey, there's two different crates.
Yeah, William Dafoe's character.
yeah.
What was
Which,
his?
I mean, that guy never be trusted. Clem.
There you go. Yeah, Clem was explaining it, and I noticed that, but they kind of left it like, well, did he or didn't he? So I don't know. Like, I guess I'll have to watch that again. I wonder if they made it obvious that he did. Are you saying they made it obvious?
Again, I think it goes. I mean, I think it goes to ultimately what your evaluation of him is. And based on everything else that we're saying, he's looking out for himself. He's using people. So even though he seemed to have like a sort of closeness with Pete, he saw an opportunity to, and I think, I mean, I was already thinking, I didn't read this and come to this conclusion, but I think I read that in the original movie, like they do show him poisoning Pete.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It would go. I mean, it would go with the rest of the things that he did. So I wouldn't be surprised. But at my first thought was, oh, he just gave him alcohol and he finally drank too much.
Yeah.
But then as the movie went on, I was like, I wonder if he poisoned him. So I have to watch that again. I'm curious to see if we can see that he's actually giving him the poison, or if it's kind of left like, did he or didn't he?
Well, also it was weird because the guy, like, he kind of asked him for like a little bit. He asked him for a swig or something.
Yeah.
And then he brings him a whole bottle of it. So that's where I was like, well, maybe it was just alcohol poisoning, but I think he slipped him the actual poisoned one. So let me talk real quick about the rest of the cast in this movie, because we got,
so good.
Cate Blanchett, Willem Dafoe, who we already said, Toni Collette, Ron Perlman. We have a reunion between Richard Jenkins and Mary Steenburgen, who we saw together in the fantastic classic movie Step Brothers. And so yeah, incredible.
She had the same role too.
But Cate Blanchett's character, Dr. Lilith, I really found her difficult to understand. Like, what was her motivation? Was she just trying to dominate? Was she just wanting power over this man, who
for the exact reason he called her out is exactly why she did what she did. 100%.
But it made it seem like, I mean, was this just a one-off thing? Like, she just had it out for him, or is this kind of something that she does, using her, and because that was something that there was a line where they alluded to the fact that they both do the same thing, right? Her as a psychiatrist, and him as a mentalist. They're both using people's vulnerabilities to to make themselves wealthy. So yeah.
But she, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So there was a lot of confusion with me about her. I mean, I love the character. That was definitely a twist. Right off the bat, you kind of knew like this dame is probably not to be trusted. But but she kind of buys your trust, because it does seem like they're working together. But sure enough, she held a grudge, all right.
The minute he had her hold the money, I'm like, she's taking it.
Mm.
Like the minute he's like, "Oh, you hold it here," I'm like, "Yep, she's gonna take that money."
Which is interesting because he literally tells her, "Oh, you want the power," But once, because I noticed, I was like, "Why did he go so in on her?" Because he won her after he won the crowd back once he, guessed the pistol, but he continued going in.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like, she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you're right, and I'm gonna do it to you." And so I figured something was coming with her. I just didn't know what was gonna happen. But I loved how they put her half picture in the book to show that, oh well, he's drawn the people he thinks about. I was like, that's awesome. That was a great little callback.
Yeah.
But see, the movie had a lot of those little callbacks. There was a moment where he flipped over the card and there was the upside down or the hangman.
Man.
Yeah.
And he turned it upside down. So I remember there was a point towards the beginning of the movie where he meets Xena for the first time and she's talking to him before the penis, where she flips the card. And I thought about that. I was like, let me go back and look at that card. And the card she flips over, it's in French, but it says star. I was like, oh, so that explains why she goes and decides to rub one out, because she's got to ring him in. This guy, she flips over a star. She wants to attach herself to that star. So I thought that was kind of cool, to see that. And that only made me think about that because of the second time they did it and he flipped over the card.
Yeah. What does annoy me and frustrate me about the story, even though we know like it's a cautionary tale, about greed and kind of there's lots of warnings, and every time he comes to a point where as the audience we can see like, hey, this is exactly what they told you not to do, then you see him just bulldoze over those barriers, like you said with that doctor, and when he went in on her, saying to her that she was all about power, like Molly tried to stop him. You knew that was something that he shouldn't do, when he led this guy on to the point where he wanted to do the seance with him. They told him not to go, not to let people off the hook, tell him the truth, don't go that far, so like everything that he was told to avoid, he did. And so it kind of, is it a cautionary tale about, the ignorance of like greed of, believing your own hype, or was he just not as smart as we may have thought he was?
I think it's a beautiful tale, and I always love these tales, but it's a beautiful tale of being greedy. He was getting greedy and he should have stopped. He did the first one, he succeeded, he should have been done, but no, he kept going.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you're greedy.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, with the couple, Mary Steenburgen and her husband, I thought it was a great example of two things. One, how he didn't care. Like, he didn't care because he wasn't around for the consequences of his action with that murder-suicide that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it doesn't affect him, but he doesn't care anyway because he's off to the next thing. And that's how he lived.
Hold on,
What?
sir. I absolutely think you are incorrect. He did care. You know how I know he cared? He
What?
made it a point to say that he's pretty sure he saved their marriage.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, he didn't, like, he believes he saved their marriage, but that's his pride speaking. He doesn't care what. No, but I'm saying he doesn't care about what really happened because, like I said, like it wasn't it. It was just a notch on his belt.
No,
even that when he said I saved the marriage.
He absolutely thought that he was doing right for these people. Like he said it. He's like, "Oh, did you see how they reacted? How happy they were?" In his mind, he was doing it because it was the right thing to do, and so they, it was making them feel better. And he was getting paid for it.
And like I said, no, and I agree with you that he did take it, but I think it was more of and this is the way I took it. It was more feeding. You see what I did? I'm the one who saved their marriage. I did this. It was a great thing that I did.
No, I
You
know.
what
That's
mean?
what I'm saying. That's why I think
No,
he
that's what I'm
does
saying.
care about it.
Well, no, but what I meant, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the damage that he does.
The
You know
outcome.
what I mean? Yeah, because the other thing I wrote in my little notes was like, you see the danger of what giving people false hope happens. Because like, yeah, you gave this false hope, and then she's like, yeah, it led her to say, I'm going to kill you, kill me, so we can all be reunited.
Well, the thing is, you notice that he in his mind thinks that he's doing right because he hasn't been told that, you know, a negative thing has happened. So they announced that the murder over the
on the radio.
while he's outside with the other guy, Grindle. So like I guess that would be the form of narcissism, you know. You think that you're doing right by you know, whatever you're doing is just helping the world. But yeah, I guess because since he didn't know about it, in his mind he thought he was doing right.
Yeah,
And I also want to believe that if he did find out about it, he would have found a reason why it wasn't his fault.
sure.
Yeah,
Reasonable.
You want to say something?
And I think that's ultimately why, you know, there's this duality, right? The devil and the angel on your shoulder, and you're seeing that throughout. And you know, my theory, it's not a like super out of this world type of theory or whatever, but for me, like the point of no return for him, that I really feel like where there's still hope for him, or you know, he hasn't completely lost his soul, but then once he crosses this point, it's done for him. It's over. Was when you know, he was eating out of, you know, Kate Blanchett's character's hand, and she takes a sip of whiskey, and with her lip soaked or no, with her whiskey soaked lips, she kisses him, and then, you know, so now he's got that taste in his mouth. He's been saying this whole time he never drinks, he doesn't drink, he won't drink. And then right after that, that was enough for him to, you know, reach down and grab that glass and take a sip, which then you see that spiral out of control. But I felt like that was the moment where he truly lost everything, and really started to spin out of control. And I don't know if you guys saw it that way as well, but I also, from the beginning, there was something about him. They seemed to show some connection that he had with the geek. He was just really fixated on the geek, offering him a cigarette, trying to, you know, do the best that he could by him, dropping him off at the hospital, and showing concern for him. So I definitely was, in my mind, already thinking, okay, this is all a journey of him becoming the geek.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really felt like that was the turning point for him, was when he allowed himself to succumb to the bottle, which he had avoided throughout the whole movie.
Right. So I think that also shows that she knew what she was doing from the beginning to do that.
Yeah, because she kept pointing out there's that word again, never, and I think she made it a point to try to break that never, to get dominance over him.
Right, because he said that in order to be a mentalist, you always have to be on.
Yeah.
So he doesn't drink.
And I thought at the you know, when he and her face off, and he's like trying to strangle her with the phone cord, and then they're stopped, and guards come in and they ask her, like, are you okay? And there's just this close up of her, and she goes, you know, in her deep Kate Blanchett voice, she's like, I'll live. It was like such a declaration of victory. And it was kind of actually dark, because again, there are no good guys in this movie. They're all bad guys.
Whoa. My poor sweet Molly was good.
It was an angel.
Yes.
An angel. But yeah, you really felt like, oh man, the truly bad guy, like the most powerful bad guy in the movie, won in the end, you know?
Yeah. Was it? I felt bad, but when I started watching the movie, and you know, we see the body, and he gets on the train. As soon as he gets off the train, and I saw the little person, I went, "Oh, he must be in Nightmare Alley now." I was like, "Man, that's messed up of me. Why did I think like that?"
I was gonna say, Hold on, it just slipped my mind.
I thought it was funny that every time he was like testing people or being tested,
Yeah.
like when the sheriff came to break up the circus, and they know that these people are doing something they shouldn't be doing, and he starts talking to this guy, and he's like, "Hold on, I'm getting a vision," and everyone's hooked. And then the same thing with Grindel. He in the middle of a lie detector test, he goes, "Stop,
Mm-hmm.
feel something. It's stirring," and everyone's like, "Oh boy, here it comes!" And then everyone forgets about the lie detector test. So I thought that was crazy how one 1 second of going back on into your act, and everyone's hooked again.
Mm-hmm. I remember what I was gonna say, which was oh boy.
There's no way, bro.
That's the best.
It's so deep that he keeps losing it.
Okay.
You try to reel it back in.
Yeah, I got it. Don't let me lose it again. Something that really annoyed me was with Grindel in that climactic scene where they're doing the seance and Molly's supposed to appear as his ex-lover in the form of an apparition. He's like 50 feet from her and he sees her. And Stan is right next to him. And then he's like, "Oh, I gotta touch her. I gotta go up to her." Like, if you just stop him, if you just, you're the genius who's like so good with, you're silver tongued, you can, you lie all the time. Why couldn't you just make up a lie? Like say, "No, you can't touch her," or even just like drop him down to the ground. They showed he was so strong. Like all he had to do was stop that from happening. And so it kind of felt like it could have been even easily avoidable in my opinion, and yet again inexplicably he was somehow powerless in that to prevent that.
No, bro, I don't think that's inexplicable. I think you were the one that actually brought it up, that his downfall was when that liquor touched his lips. And so that happened after he started drinking, right? We see him rushing to the airport to get Molly to bring him back. And I mean, obviously he's drinking, so he's not thinking like he used to, like he normally would. That's why something so silly like that makes, I mean, I'm trying to make it make sense, but I see that because now he's drinking, he's no longer, on top of his game anymore. So something silly is going to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Because it was so stupid. I'm like, dude, just grab him.
Yeah.
And I don't know why Molly didn't turn and run.
Well, poor girl.
No, but he's coming at her. Yeah.
Yeah, but she wasn't really giving instruction outside of stand there, and then I'm gonna churn him away, and then you can leave. So,
but I will say, since we're talking about him, I found Grindel, that's his name. He was creepy AF.
Oh yeah.
Like I like, but not even by trying to be, just by being plain and simple. When we would talk, I was like, I didn't know. Like I'm like, man, something bad's gonna happen.
Man. Yeah,
I was like, holy crud.
Yeah, I figured that was the point of him, talking and acting the way he was because of what he did. So I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, and then I thought it was great. I was like, oh, Molly's gonna get killed by this man. Bradley Cooper's Stanton's gonna get killed. Like someone's dying by this serial killer. Especially when he admitted to killing so many people. I was like, whoa.
Right. Pause. I have to sneeze.
Go for it, man.
We'll listen.
Oh, of course. Now I don't have to. You stupid. All right, continue.
This being a Guillermo del Toro movie and Guillermo del Toro being the master of creatures, I was disappointed that we didn't get, some costumes, some creepy creature in the background or something. Like I needed.
You got Enoch, bro. Did you want him to get up and start walking around?
All right, so what was that baby about? Why was he split in half? Why did he have a third eye? Why did they keep showing it? Like, was there supposed to be symbolism there?
So the way I took it is, with Enoch, he killed his parents. Like he's just the destroyer of things, and that's what Bradley Cooper is. Everything he's touching is just being destroyed. That's how I kind of took it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now they mentioned the Bible, but I don't remember Enoch in the Bible.
He's in there.
Yeah.
No,
Like, don't ask me for his
Wow.
story. I just know he's in there.
That was extremely helpful, Kevin. Thank you.
I think he's one of the people who walked with God and then didn't. Like he was taken up or something.
Okay.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Interesting.
So yeah, so that's kind of. I mean, there's probably some more there, but yeah, but man, that end was so good when he sits down and he tells him, "Oh, I want to do a mentalist thing," and the guy's like, "Nah, come back," and he gives him that drink. I think that's when he realized, like, I'm being groomed to be a geek because he got that second. He poured that second drink, and as soon as he goes, "You ever heard of a geek?" You can tell he looked at that glass like, "Oh yeah." So it's got that. What they put in there? LSD, I think it was 1 drop.
Opium
So
tincture.
he's looking at that going, I know what I'm about to drink. And he drinks it, he starts crying, then he starts laughing. I was like, man, what a great ending.
Yeah.
He said I was born for this.
Yeah.
Really great ending, and just the close up of his face, like
That did not look like him at all.
Maniacally laughing. Yeah, I mean the acting was superb, man. I miss that guy being something else than a raccoon and just a voice, because such a great actor.
And I think he actually did his voice the way he did because if he would have talked normal, we would have heard Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
Like the whole time. And that's all I would have heard.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to bring up, since it was Guillermo del Toro, I did expect for some reason there would be some supernatural elements, some time travel, and I was like, oh, is the geek in the beginning? And this was just me being dumb. I was like, oh, is this going to be Bradley Cooper and he's going to go back in the past and become this geek, and that's why he was being so nice to himself?
Mm-hmm.
But that was just me trying to outthink Guillermo del Toro. Really, but then when I read it afterwards, he was like, no, this was his chance to not do any supernatural elements, which he knows people are expecting, but just to be able to tell a story, just to be a storyteller.
And I thought the same thing, because with the geek, they never really show you his face. It was always covered with his hair. But even what they did show you, it had similar features to Bradley Cooper's face. So I thought it was also like some type of dimensional or time warp thing where, he was fulfilling a prophecy and it actually was him. So yeah, I definitely thought that too at one point.
So you wanna throw out the ratings then?
Sure. I did so as I was preparing to speak about this, and I was on IMDb looking at Guillermo del Toro's, IMDb page and stuff. I did have a moment where I was considering like how I was going to pronounce his name, because, there's this thing where like if it's a Hispanic name, people even in English pronounce it in like it would be in Spanish, so they would say Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
Even though they're speaking in English, but I just think that's silly and dumb. So I don't subscribe to that. But
well, actually, he's come out and said he prefers his name to be said like that. So you've just slandered the director.
Look, I'm Hispanic, and my opinion.
I'm kidding. I just made that up.
Really defending it, but like my perspective is like if I'm speaking English, I'm gonna sound like I'm speaking English. If I'm speaking Spanish, then I'm speaking Spanish. Like there's a distinction there for me. But I also, as much as I've enjoyed his films, and I don't know that I've really followed him too much, but I do enjoy, his films and his stories going back to Pan's Labyrinth. I actually never saw Mimic. Did you guys see Mimic? I heard that Mimic was actually really good.
I wasn't a fan.
Okay.
I've never seen it.
Dude, I totally thought Guillermo del Toro was a Spaniard. I forgot. I didn't know he was Mexican.
Oh, Mexican, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but when I've heard him speak, he has like a lisp and like a Spanish accent. It almost sounds like weird.
Oh man, you lost me there. I can't hear that.
I just knew he was Mexican because of the cartoons he made, and when he talked about it, he's like, yeah, when I was growing up in Mexico, this is the thoughts I had. I'm like, all right.
All right, so I can start us off. Again, to sum it up for me, loved Bradley Cooper's character. I also wanted to say, to both of you, At times, directorially and aesthetically, not quite the same by any stretch of the imagination, but I did feel like it had elements where Guillermo del Toro was at least showing that this was kind of, it felt to me like influenced kind of like by Stanley Kubrick. Of the movies that I've seen of his, this one felt the most like it was definitely noir, but also kind of at times felt Stanley Kubrick-ish, which I appreciated. Again, not too much, but just kind of a hint of it, of it there. Did did you guys feel that way?
I would say the second half, because I think both halves were stylistically a little bit different. I think the second half I could see it more than the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, when he was in the carnival, like I feel like it was shot primarily so you feel like you're in a carnival, and then as soon as he left, and we get that next shot of him all dressed up in his gown, his gown, his tux. Now it's more stylized. The second half of the movie.
Yeah.
Kate Blanchett, she always has that glow around her face, So yeah, I do think it was. Yeah. There's a little bit 2 movies in there.
Did you want? Oh, go ahead.
The one thing I want to say about the time jump, I think like it seemed like a totally like it was only 2 years, but it seemed like a whole different time period from that first half to that second half. Like it was more like that. That it was even more like it was so drastic of a change.
Yeah.
That
you went from a place with no money to money.
Yeah. No, which I thought was great. And like overall, when you see the whole story, like to me, they earned that 2-year break to set off the 2 different stories. And I was like, man, this is really good.
Yeah. Did you? I wondered if when Dr. Lilith, Kate Blanchett, when she sort of unbuttoned her blouse or her coat, and she didn't expose herself, but she just showed a scar that went down the middle of her abdomen. I wonder if that was real, or if she faked that.
No, I think that's fake.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
So like like was it real for the character or for Kate Blanchett?
No, the movie. Like if the character was trying to using that to deceive Stanley, to go along with her deception.
Okay. I was like, all right.
No, I don't think she went. I don't think she went that far.
I think everything. Yeah, I think a lot of things that she like did was just all. If you go back, it was all just to manipulate him.
Yeah. Like
even allowing him to get the upper hand, she was just playing him.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, he sabotaged himself.
Yeah, and it's just I like that aspect. Like the irony of the player getting played, player.
Yeah.
That's how the game be.
Only because he was a jerk, man. If he wasn't a jerk, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. That was impressive how he gets the gun in the little pouch, though.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. So for me, Bradley Cooper was definitely worth the price of admission. But I did find the price a little too steep at 2 hours and 30 minutes. You could have cut this down at least to 2 hours for me, Guillermo del Toro. That would have been a lot easier to swallow. Definitely entertaining, definitely well done. Liked a lot of things about it. But I guess it just again it could have been shorter. And that's not just to complain, like a curmudgeon that movies are just too long these days. But there's something to be said for making the most of the time that you have, and having something more concise that's easier to digest, and being able to tell that story, in a shorter amount of time. But so for me, it's gonna be 2 little Jerry's. No fractions, no decimals, just a solid 2.
All right, I like it, Kevin. What are you gonna do?
All right, just to reiterate, by the way, 1 means you didn't like it, 2 means it was meh, and 3 is strongly
Well, yeah,
recommend
I
it,
mean,
right?
I kind of just made that up, but that was my thinking. One
Yeah.
is
Well,
I'm never gonna watch this again.
uh,
2 is whatever, and 3 is I'll watch this again.
okay. So I just want to make sure. So with that said, no, because I want the people out there to know what we're judging on. That's why. I will say, the people got to know. Fantastic cast.
Yeah.
Like, even people where I usually think are okay, like just everyone I thought was great. Everyone was well casted. Again, I thought at the time, it didn't lag any parts. I thought just telling a story, it told a great story, masterclass in storytelling, lighting, all that good stuff. I would give it a 3. I would strongly recommend this movie for anyone who has 2.5 hours to kill.
See, so I thought the movie was too short. I would have added. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna give it 3 little Jerry's. I would watch it again. I've already watched it again. It's another notch in Del Toro's belt. The cast was great. Everyone said Bradley Cooper was great. It was nice to see him. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I know you can kind of see what's coming, but it was still satisfactory. I sat back and went, beautiful.
Like that Antonio Banderas meme.
Yeah, sat back. Woo. Mwah.
So let me. I'm not gonna let you guys off the hook here because I guess I am maybe starting to see a flaw in our rating system here. But since you guys both gave it 3s, let me just ask you: do you consider this Guillermo del Toro's best film?
No, not at all.
Hellboy 2 exists.
Old Boy?
No,
Hellboy 2.
2.
Hellboy 2.
Oh, yeah, The Golden Army. That's a
The
great
Golden Army.
Pan's Labyrinth, man.
And Pan's Labyrinth.
You see, you have to understand the way I'm rating doesn't mean that anything is better than anything. I'm just saying this movie, watch it. You will be thoroughly you will enjoy it. You'll be thoroughly happy you did.
Hey, man, he also directed Pacific Rim.
Yeah, which is another great one. I would like to see kaijus.
I didn't get a chance to see The Shape of Water, and he did win Best Picture for that. So I definitely feel like that one I should watch at some point.
You have to understand while you watch it. Just just remember what you're watching.
Yeah.
Just remember the story. Just understand what you're watching. So then you won't go, I don't understand the point of it. You just got to immerse yourself in the moment and just understand what you're watching, and you will enjoy it.
Oh boy, I don't know what to make of that at all.
Well, let's just say that there's amphibians and there's humans and
there's water.
And there's water.
And it's shaped a certain way.
You know the shape of it, all right, my friend.
If you could, I can imagine. If you can't get enough of Guillermo del Toro, you should know that
I've got a movie for you.
Currently, speaking of the shape of things, Pinocchio is in post-production.
What a great segue. Speaking of shape of things, Pinocchio.
Yeah,
you seen the size of that thing?
Lie to me. So that should be really gonna be dark, man. I'm kind of looking forward to that. Pinocchio, the original movie's scary, dark.
The original story is even darker.
Dark, yeah.
Doesn't Geppetto murder him, destroy him?
There's a lot. There's kidnapping. There's money laundering. There's a lot going on.
Kids dying.
Hey, I got this puppet.
He's killing kids. I don't know what to do. No, killing kids is like the word. That's not even the worst part of it.
Yeah. Good old That's good old Disney for you, man.
They didn't create the story.
Yeah.
They just made it, more enjoyable.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I think we've done this film Justice, I mean, we should give it a nod. It's so far our highest rated film.
Hey, here.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Guillermo, you're doing something right, baby. Keep it up.
Beautiful.
On that note, sayonara,
GDT forever.
Hakuna Matata.
Later.